Good morning. Today I want to talk about raw food, and I want to talk about why you should eat raw food and how you can get more raw food into your diet. So far we've talked about two major groups of food, just in a very broad sense. One is the things that we should eat, and the other is the things that we shouldn't eat if we want to live healthy lives. On the should eat side, we have the fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, seeds, and grains, and this includes your bread, your oats, your corn, your beans, all your fruits and vegetables. It includes a lot of things. Pretty much everything else would be what you should not eat. We saw that in the very beginning in the garden, our first parents, Adam and Eve, this is what God gave them. This is what the Creator gave them to eat. Nuts, fruits, seeds, grains, which grains are seeds, and then the animal products, the animal meat and dairy did not come until later that God permitted that. So those are the things that were not part of the original diet, because sin was not part of the plan, death was not part of the plan, and so you don't see that in the original diet. Now if you want to, those are things that you should avoid. Meat and dairy you should avoid. If you're going to eat the meat and dairy, at least let it be the clean meat and make it limited. Cut it back, limit it in your diet. So now what I want to do is I want to go into a little more detail on both of these sides. I want to go into more detail about the things you should eat. I want to go into more detail about the things that you shouldn't eat. And in this video I'm going to talk about the raw food and why it's so important, and in the next video I'm going to talk about processed foods and why they are so dangerous for you. So why should we be eating raw? Well, raw food, it's alive. Are you alive? I hope so. You are. Do you feel alive? Do you want to feel alive? See, raw food has all the vitamins and minerals in it that we need to survive. And when you cook food, you cook a lot of the minerals and vitamins and nutrients out of it. That's just what happens. It happens. The more you cook it, the more you deplete the nutrition that's in it. So if you want to get it at its highest nutrition that's possible, that's available to you, then you need to eat it raw. And if you, just eating raw food is not, there are people who, the raw foodists or the raw food group of people who think that if you're going to eat raw food, then you're only going to eat fruits and vegetables. That is, and I believe they do eat nuts and seeds, but they leave the grains out. And they actually say grains are, not good for you, they're bad for you. I kind of took a look at that, and at first I was really wondering too. I was like, if it's alive, if it's alive, then how do you eat, wheat kernels alive? How do you eat rice and potatoes without cooking it if you want to get all the nutrition? Well, I'm going to explain that to you in just a moment. You can eat grains in their live state, where they will be alive, even though you actually cook it. So I have to go, with what the Word of God says, because that's where I base everything from. And when the Word of God says that He gave them nuts and seeds and grains in the beginning, grains are seeds, and so He gave them grains in the beginning, and if He gave that to us in the beginning, that is what we need. You'll find that it is very hard for human beings to run their body without any carbohydrates, because carbohydrates have glucose in them. And so glucose is what our body needs. It needs that sugar, that fuel to run on. Now we need it in the the best form possible. We don't need it processed with refined foods, but I'm going to talk about that. We need it in the most alive form possible, and grains are not something that we want to eat a lot of. We do want to limit our grains because we don't need as much grains as we do the fruits and the vegetables, because the grains have less, as we saw in the nutrient density chart, they have less nutrition and more calories than the fruits and vegetables. The fruits and vegetables have more nutrition and less calories, but there are times when you need to eat grains, when you are in heavy, laboring and you're working hard and you need more energy, or it's cold outside, grains warm you up and they give you more heat in your body, and they are a wonderful food and we should enjoy them. So I do disagree with most of the raw foodists on that point. We do need grains. God gave them to us, but there is a better, best way to eat them, which I'll talk about. To eat raw food, I consider myself, I do eat cooked foods, and I'm not saying that you should eat 100% everything raw. It's okay to eat some cooked fruit or cooked vegetables. You're not going to have as much nutrition in it, as long as you understand that. You are sacrificing some of the nutrition when you cook it. But some cooked food, it's good, it's warm, it tastes good. You're probably going to find that eventually you would rather eat it raw because of what it does for you, and you would actually like the taste. And there's a lot of different ways to eat food raw. And you actually already eat some raw food that you just don't realize that you do. But, when we cook the food, we cook a lot of nutrients out of it. So the less we cook it, the better it will be. If we can steam it, or if we can just soak it, and don't cook it for very long. Just cook it a little bit. Don't cook it till it's dead. Cooked food is dead food. Don't cook it till all the life is out of it. You want to see those bright colors. You want to see the bright greens and yellows and reds and orange. If it looks brown, if it looks like a dull color, if it doesn't look vibrant, like a vibrant color, then it's dead food. It doesn't have, you're alive and you need living food. You need food that's alive. And most of us are eating dead food. We're eating processed food, and then on top of that, we're cooking it again. We're cooking our fruits and vegetables to the point that there's nothing left in them. There's no point of even eating it. So when you cook it, steam it, or just lightly cook it or saute it, don't let it be completely without nutrition. Don't just sit there and let it cook for an hour. If you put a can of beans on that are already cooked, they're already dead, they don't even look vibrant, and then you're going to cook it some more, there's no nutrition in that. There's completely a dead food. So how can you get more raw food into your diet? If that is absolutely the best way to eat fruits and vegetables, not the only way, you can cook them, but to get the most nutrition out of it is to eat it raw. Well, the first thing that you can do is you can juice. You can juice them, your fruits and vegetables, and drink the juice. You can blend your fruits and vegetables and make smoothies out of them, which are really, really good and really nutritious. And I'm going to show you how to do that when we go to the kitchen. You can, I know I drink way more of my food raw than I eat it. Juicing and blending. And then also another way is, of course, with your salads. And when we talk about salad, we're not only talking about just a big green salad. Those are wonderful. You can put all kinds of things in a big green salad and make you a nice salad dressing to go on it that's not processed and doesn't have preservatives and sugar and all that added sodium and things in it. You can make your own very simple, just some olive oil and lemon juice is a very simple way to really spice up and make a salad very tasty. But there are lots of other salads besides green salads. There's other ways of doing, and I will talk about that when we go to the kitchen. But one thing that you already eat raw that you probably didn't realize is you eat cabbage raw. If you like coleslaw, that is raw cabbage. It's not cooked. It tastes great. You know, you put some, I know most people put mayonnaise on it, but you don't have to put mayonnaise on it. Mayonnaise is basically oil and eggs, and you don't have to do it. There are other ways to do it. You put your salad dressing on it. It's really, really good like that. It's awesome. And that is a wonderful way to eat raw cabbage, either the traditional southern way or there's an oriental way, just depending on what you put on it, and it's really good. So I want to try to open your mind to eating raw things more than just thinking of a salad or a veggie tray. I mean, there's so much more than that, and I'm still learning myself. But I really drink more of my raw food than I eat it. So in the smoothies, that's something that is a huge part of my family's life, and we have them every day. And you can go to greensmoothiegirl.com and you can look on there. Robin Openshaw does a great job. She's the one I learned about green smoothies from, and there's a lot of different things. There's no rules. You can put whatever you want in a smoothie. You can do an all-fruit smoothie, or you can do some greens in there and just add the greens a little at a time until you're if you just put a handful of greens with a bunch of fruit, you're not even going to taste the green, and you're not going to see the green. So you can actually hide that in a smoothie for your children or somebody who's just learning to eat greens. And look, I mean, how else in the world can you get raw greens? I mean, I wouldn't sit there and eat a whole big plate of all raw greens. Who would sit there and eat raw kale and raw collards? I mean, usually we cook them to get, the bitterness out of them and just, but they're not as nutritious when we do that. So this is an awesome way. These smoothies are an awesome way to get a lot of raw food that you otherwise would never do. You would never eat it that way. Now, I love to eat raw spinach in a salad. I love a spinach salad. There's some strawberries in there. That's great. There are some raw things, to eat in salads, but as far as raw kale and collards, I have not quite, managed to eat that raw. But when I put it in my smoothie, when I blend it up, and you've got the lemon in there and you've got the fruit in there, it just takes the bitterness out, and it is so good and so nutritious for you. And so I'm very excited to share that with you, because you're going to get a lot of nutrition packed in a little bit of in a pint, and you're going to be doing really, really well. You're going to be eating stuff you would never have eaten otherwise like that, and a lot more of it. Same way with your juicing. You can take 6 carrots and 2 apples and juice it, and you get this glass of juice, like a 16-ounce glass of juice, and you drink it down in 15 minutes. It's right into your bloodstream. And who would have sat there and ate 6 carrots? I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of nutrition, and it's raw. And so you just can't beat juicing and blending. And they're both good. One's not better than the other. They're just different, and you would do it for different reasons. With the blending, you have more fiber in there, but with the juicing, you have, your body, when your body's really sick, how they say starve a cold, drink a lot of liquids. Well, you might not have a cold, but if you're on medication for anything, your body is not in a healthy state. And so in order to get well, if you have any disease, juicing is the way to go whenever your body is very, very weak, because you can just your body doesn't have to worry about all the fiber, and instead the body just takes that in just like it's like an injection, like an IV, and it just goes straight in, and within 15 minutes, and you're getting all those raw nutrients. I mean, it's awesome. And I'm going to show you some juicers that I have that I like, and we'll do that in another video. But back to the raw food. I wanted to talk about the grains that I was talking about earlier, okay? Raw food is, they say no to grains. They don't eat grains because, you think about it, you pick up a piece of rice and you put it in your mouth and it's hard as a rock. Or you put a wheat kernel in your mouth, it's hard. You put a dry bean in your mouth, you put a potato in your mouth. I mean, how do you eat some things like that raw? I have heard there are some people who eat raw potatoes. I haven't tried that. But yes, you're going to cook some nutrition out of it, but some things you just gotta cook. Now, when it comes to the grains, this is what is really, really neat, and I want you to understand, because grains are a seed. They're a grass seed. We talked about this in another video. I think it was in our first food, that video. We talked about how grains, like your oats and your wheat, all those are seeds. They're grass seeds. There's such a thing as wheat grass and oat grass, barley grass. I mean, all of these, they're seeds. There's quinoa, there's millet, there's amaranth, there's all kinds of, there's bulgur wheat, there's all kinds of grains. There's different grains. Corn is a grain. There's all kinds of grains, and they're actually seeds. And so what is really neat about it is that grains like rice, beans, wheat, oats, all of those, the way that God packaged them is they have their own preservative. They have their own little package that they come in, just like a nut or a seed. You have that nut, you have to break open that outer shell to get to the nut inside or the seed inside. Well, grains have their own little packaging that God gave them to preserve them until the time was right, until they were ready to be used. So whenever you get wheat or you get oats or beans, rice, what you have to do is you have to soak them in water overnight, and it's called sprouting. That's what they call it, because eventually you'll see little tails and they'll start to sprout because they're a seed. And so they'll start to sprout and grow their little, grass. And so what you have to do is you have to soak it overnight before it starts to get a little tail on it. And this makes it alive. It comes alive. So if you want to eat grains raw, then you have to soak them. Now, rice is one thing that you're definitely going to have to cook. And it's okay to cook all of this fully like you normally do, but just soak them first, because what that does is it breaks open that outer shell. It breaks open that outer casing, and it's basically opening the package that God put it in. When you sprout it, when you soak it overnight, you're opening it and you're allowing all those nutrients to come out so that it can be used by your body. So in other words, when you don't soak the wheat kernels, if you don't soak the oats or beans, then basically you're eating it and you're not really getting all the nutrition, because that nutrition is still closed up in that it doesn't come alive until you soak it. So you want to soak it overnight. Your beans, the dry beans, they have come, if you went out into your garden and you picked the beans and they were at a certain point before they get too dry, you could go ahead and eat them right then. But at some point they get too dry and they have to be re-soaked. So that hardening process, that protective case packaging is preserving it until it's ready, and so then you just have to undo it by soaking it. Same thing with your rice needs to be soaked every night if you want it to be alive when you cook it. Then your wheat, if you buy flour in the store, because I know you probably don't buy your own wheat and mill it, most of us don't. I have done that before, gotten the wheat berries and milled it, but what you want to do is you would want to soak the berries first and then grind them, and then you have sprouted flour. If you go to the store and you just are buying the flour, that flour has pretty likely it has not been sprouted. It's not sprouted flour. If you go to the health food store, you can find sprouted flour, but where they actually soaked the wheat berries overnight, or the wheat kernels, and then they milled them. And that's sprouted, that's alive. And the reason why they don't put it on the shelf is because, and even with the bread and things like that, the reason they don't put it on the shelf is because it's going to go bad very quickly. And they can't make, they can't, if they put something on the shelf, they want it to last a long time, okay? They want to have they put all those preservatives in there to make it last, and they want it to last a long time because otherwise it's just going to go bad really quickly, and then that kind of eats into your profit. And so they're not putting the freshest, most alive thing on the shelf. They're putting things on the shelf that are going to last a long time. And the fact is that it's not alive. It's kind of dead. I mean, it is dead. And your body's not going to survive and thrive off of dead food. It needs live food. Now, I know that it's hard to cook your own, make your own bread and all that. I'm going to show you how to make bread. It's not really that hard, but it does take time. And, you can bypass some steps by going ahead and buying the flour already done and all that. I don't mill my own flour all the time. It is the reason why not only you would want to do that because it's more nutritious, but also from an economical standpoint and a standpoint of not having to go to the store all the time. When you buy things in bulk, and we're going to talk about that in another video, but when you buy things in bulk, you can get a lot better price. And if you're buying the wheat berries in bulk instead of the flour in bulk, it's going to last longer, so you can buy more and not have to be constantly going to the store, and you're getting it for a cheaper price, and you just kind of get in that habit, and you go ahead and soak it, mill it, and you've got it stored up in your freezer, and then you just pull it out and make your bread. So it's just part of learning a new way of life. Just a new, you're like a new creature, you got to learn new habits if you're going to be a new creature. So you're becoming a new creation, you got to have new habits and new ways of living. But we don't start out that way because we'd never make it. So we just kind of start out where we are and then progress as we go down the line. So I've made my own bread. I don't do it all the time. We eat, bread every week, and I do still buy it the way it's made at the store. I want to get to the point where I'm making it more, and I want to actually make my own flour that is sprouted and alive. And so that's how you want to make it alive. You want it to be whole, totally whole grain, whole wheat. You don't want it to be refined, and we're going to talk about that in the next video about processed foods, refined foods. You want the whole thing. You don't want just it stripped down where it has no nutrients in it. And then, after they strip all the nutrients out, then it has no nutrients and it's not alive. And then they add preservatives to it. So by the time it makes it to the shelf, it's not food. It's really dead food. So yes. And what's really interesting too is when bread is on the shelf, the bread that has been processed and has all these preservatives in it is such a dead food that the reason why it lasts so long is that even the bugs that come along, and they are supposed to break down, decaying matter and things that are rotting. Well, food is not alive. It's dead. And it's dead in the sense that it won't rot. I mean, it's not going to rot because it's not alive. And even the bugs will not touch it because they know there's no nutrition in it. There's nothing there for them to eat, to live on, so they won't even eat it. That's how bad it is. Bread on the shelf, you go in there, the bugs won't even, that's why it lasts so long, because it's not alive, and the bugs won't even eat it because there's no nutrition in it. So they don't get into it, and it stays there for a long time. So, that's just the natural part of food. It is going to die. You have fruit on your counter. It's going to go bad. Some of it's going to go bad. You're going to lose some of it. It's rotted. It's going to rot because it's alive. And so that's a good thing. when things start to go bad, it means that they actually were good at one point. But if they don't ever go bad, then they were never good to begin with, because it was dead from the beginning. I've heard that, if you have a hamburger or French fries from McDonald's, you can set it on the counter, and a year from now it'll look exactly the same. Isn't that crazy? It doesn't rot because there's nothing in it. It's not alive. It's dead. And I've actually witnessed this because my husband and I, we own an auto detailing business, and some people in their cars, we clean out their cars and everything, and in some of these minivans and things like that, you find some stuff in there, a bunch of kids in there, they're eating fast food, and we have actually found a whole hamburger underneath the seat of a car before. And, my husband said, told the customer about it, and they're like, I don't remember when that must have been like a year ago, because it, had been so long since, it had been in there forever, and it was still like, it just happened that week. And so I can testify to that. So we want to eat living food. We want to eat food that's alive. And that's what I want to show you, is how to get more of this live food in your diet. You do not have to eat only fruits and vegetables to say that you're eating raw. For me, I eat most of my fruits and vegetables raw, but not 100% of the time. About, if you can eat 50 to 80% of your diet raw, which I know I do, 66%, because pretty much every breakfast and lunch I'm eating raw. So dinner is a cooked meal. It has some cooked vegetables, it has the grains that are cooked, but I still consider, when I eat grains, if I sprout it, and I don't always do that, I consider that eating raw because it is alive. And but you do want to thoroughly cook. You want to thoroughly cook your rice. You want to thoroughly cook, your oatmeal, whatever. You don't. But really, if you soak it, sometimes it's fine just soaked. You don't even have to actually cook. So that is so neat to me, because it opens up the kernel of the wheat, or the oat kernel, or whatever it is, and it releases those enzymes. It makes it digestible. That's the other thing I want to talk about is, when you eat raw food, you would think, my first thought was, wow, when you eat it raw, how do you digest that? It seems like you would have to cook it to make it more digestible. But the opposite is true. When you cook it, you're cooking all the digestive enzymes out of it, and your body isn't able to digest it as well. When you eat it raw, it has all the digestive enzymes in it, and your body is able to digest it much better raw than when it's cooked. So cooking it doesn't help it digest. It does kind of like break it down, but it has no enzymes in it for you to be able to digest it as well as the live food has live enzymes, and you're able to digest it much better that way. And so cooked food, you can do that about 50 to 20%. Just try to get more raw in, and eventually that will push some of the cooked food out. So I just want you to understand that raw food is so much better for you, but you don't have to do without the grains, because grains can be made alive by sprouting them first. And I consider myself, I eat mostly raw, but I eat grains, and I try to eat, I want to start eating them more in their live state. That's the process I'm on, eating them sprouted, and making more homemade bread for our family. Bread is a big part of life, and everywhere you go, there's bread in something. In every country, in every kind of cuisine and nationality. If you go to Burger King, it's the bun. If you go to Taco Bell, it's the wrap, the burrito. If you go to, I don't know, the bread is everywhere. Italian, you have your bread, and bread is the staple of life. the bread of life. And God gave the Israelites in the desert. Here's God who created us in heaven, and what did he rain down on them to feed them? The bread of heaven. If it's good enough for God, for Almighty God, it's good enough for me. If that's what he gave them to eat for 40 years in the desert, I mean, let's face it, he didn't rain down fruits and vegetables, he did rain down bread. So, you know, it was the bread of heaven, the manna. So I see that bread is good, but I also do want to say that it does need to be limited, because we do not need as much. Those people needed that. They were walking for years. We drive wherever we go and we sit at a computer. We don't walk. So they could use all that energy. The problem is when we eat too much bread and pasta and rice and all these grains, we get way too much for what we're using. We're not using it up. And so we get way too much. So we definitely need to back off the grains. We need to limit our grains. I don't think that we need to eat grains for every meal. And I don't think that we need to eat it even every day. We just need to limit our grains a lot more than what we do. But that all comes in time. And as you add more good in, that bulk is going to push the other stuff out. And it does take more fruits and vegetables to get that feeling of being full, because there's not as many calories in it. So it takes a lot more. So, you know, I also want to talk about, when we're talking about getting as much nutrition in the food as we possibly can, there is another part to getting more nutrition, and this probably could be another video, but I want to briefly tell you that, you know, if you go out and plant your own garden, and you have, you know, now our soil is depleted. Our soil does not have all the nutrients, all the vitamins and minerals that it once had. Out of like 52, we probably have like 3. That is very depleted. And so we're not getting all the nutrition, all the vitamins and minerals, even in our fruits and vegetables. And I'm talking about mostly from the grocery store, you know. But when you plant your own garden, you can add all those minerals back to the soil. And you can also basically getting your food for free. I know when you go to the grocery store, fruits and vegetables, they're not cheap. And it's because you get what you pay for. I mean, you're getting high quality. You can get Twinkies and junk for cheap. It's set up that way. They make it cheap to eat bad. They make it convenient to eat bad. We actually have to work to be healthy. We have to take the necessary steps to try to change and turn this around. And so yes, fruits and vegetables cost more, but if you plant your own, it's free, and it comes back and it comes back, and it gives you more than what you planted, and you reap more than you sow. And so it's a wonderful thing. I haven't been able to do that yet, but one day I want to be able to have my own garden and my own orchard with fruits and vegetables, and learn how to do that, because I don't have a green thumb, I have a black thumb. Everything that I do, it doesn't survive. So I want to get to the point where I can do that. And you know, if you have your own garden, it's free. It's free. I mean, God's plan is free, and we do need to get back to having our own garden. I think that's going to be very, very important in these last days. And so, but the point that I also want to make, and that my husband made this point, and I thought it was really, really a good point to make, is that, you know, Adam, when God first formed man out of the ground, he made him out of the dust of the earth. We are made out of the dust of the earth. That's what we are. This physical body that we actually have, the actual pieces, the particles of it, are pretty cheap. Didn't take a whole lot. You know, God made something awesome. Talk about adding value. He made something awesome, an incredible machine with a heart and mind and emotions and body that is incredible, out of very cheap material. So he added a lot of value to something that was like nothing and just made something awesome out of it. But this dirt, this soil that God made man out of, that he created Adam out of, it has your minerals, your vitamins, all your minerals and vitamins in the soil. And so that's why we need vitamins and minerals to make us whole again, to make us healthy, that's what we're made out of. And so all the things that grow in the soil is what we're made to eat. It makes sense. That's why we're made to eat the grains, the grasses, the seeds, the nuts, the fruits, the vegetables. We weren't made to eat meat because the animals eat that stuff too. And there may be some animals that eat another animal, but that animal, somewhere down the line, it ate something from the ground, grass. That's how it has, minerals and vitamins in it. So it's called the food chain. And so at some point, something on the bottom of it is eating those things that grow out of the ground, the grass, the plants, the seaweed, whatever. It's eating something that had grown out of the dirt, that grew out of the soil, that has minerals, vitamins, and nutrients. And that's what we were made out of, so that's what we need to make ourselves whole again, to heal our bodies from the inside out. And so I think that's beautiful. If you want to make your body well, you need to eat what your body's made of, and that is fruits and vegetables, the things that have those nutrients in it, that has the minerals and vitamins that we need. And we eat something else that ate those minerals, they're just, we're not getting it firsthand, and we're not getting it in the best way possible. So we want to eat it fresh, we want to eat it raw, we want to eat it ripe. And if you have the opportunity to grow your own, get that soil and enrich that soil. And a good video about enriching the soil is called Back to Eden. That's a good video. You can YouTube that. It's really, really interesting. So we were not made out of drugs. We were not made out of pills. We were not made out of, steroids and aspirin and methotrexate and Prozac and prednisone, and we weren't made out of these things. And those things are not going to make us well. Those are not going to heal us. We've got to eat what we're made out of, and the body will heal itself given what it needs. It will heal itself. We weren't made out of hydrolyzed soy protein, hydrogenated soy vegetable proteins, and all these chemicals and artificial sweeteners and aspartame, and we weren't made out of this stuff. That's not going to help our bodies to heal, even our minds to heal and our hearts to heal. That stuff is not going to work. We need to eat living food if we want to truly live.